Week 1 is finally here of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I would look to start this week. The first guy is Raheem Mostert of the San Francisco 49ers. So Mostert, I wasn't big on him coming into the season, but right now, so far, knock on wood, he's been healthy here in preseason, and he actually played a few drives and a few games here in the preseason. I know Trey Sermon's definitely competition for Mostert this season heading into the year. But right now, he's going to be the number one running back here in San Francisco. And we'll see as the weeks go on what happens in that backfield. But right now, week 1, he's got a great matchup at Detroit. Detroit, obviously, they're a rebuilding team, and they've been pretty bad the last few seasons. And right here, it's an indoor ball game. And Raheem Mostert, when he plays, he's one of the most explosive running backs in all of football. We see a lot of breakout runs. We see a lot of 50, 60 run touchdowns from him. And this week at Detroit, I definitely could see that once again here from Mostert, where he breaks one loose and brings it to the house for 6 points. So this is a great matchup, and he's a perfect number 2 running back this week to put in your fantasy football lineup. And I see a game where he could go over 100 total yards and find the end zone in this one. The second running back I would look to start this week's James Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So James Robinson, what a rookie season for him last year in Jacksonville. He really took fantasy football by storm as a rookie. That was obviously undrafted in fantasy leagues, but one of the better pickups of all last season. And this season coming into the year, Travis Etienne, he was supposed to give him competition, and he was also a player rated higher than Robinson coming into fantasy drafts. But that's changed very quickly now with Etienne out for the season with the torn ACL. So right here, week 1, another good matchup for James Robinson and this Jaguar team versus a Houston Texan team that, let's be real, they're going to be one of the worst teams in all of football this year. And right here, it's another indoor game as well, so the fast turf. And Robinson, he does a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He runs between the tackles. He's going to get 20, 25 touches in this one. No real competition at the backup running back position here for him, in my opinion. I know Carlos Hyde is over there, but I still don't think he's going to be a factor, really, in this ball game. And Robinson, I could see him scoring 15 to 20 fantasy points in this game. Obviously, he's got a major upgrade at quarterback as well this season to Trevor Lawrence from either Gardner Minshew or whoever else they were running. Jake Luton out there last season was the Jaguars. So right here, I like the matchup a lot. And he's also another nice number 2 running back to have in your lineup this week is Robinson. And I think he has a good ball game. The next running back is Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team. So Antonio Gibson had a great rookie season last year with almost 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. And here in week 1 versus a Los Angeles Charger team that they give up tons of runs. They give up a lot of yards on the ground, a lot of catches out of the backfield. This ball game I could see being a mini shootout week 1 in Washington. And right here, Antonio Gibson, a lot of people drafted him late first, early second round as a number 1 running back. And this week, he's definitely going to finish the week as a top 8 to 10 running back, in my opinion, in points scored. So I think he could go for 100 total yards in this one as well and find the end zone. Like I said, Washington, they're going to be keen on establishing the run and playing good defense, even though I know Ryan Fitzpatrick could sling the ball. And they got a pretty decent receiving group as well with obviously Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel coming over in the offseason, Logan Thomas, a pretty solid tight end. But this ball game, I think Antonio Gibson has a good one. And he's a guy you should be confident to put out there as your number 1 running back on your roster this week here. And he'll finish in the 8 to 10 range, in my opinion. The next running back is Mike Davis of the Atlanta Falcons. So for some reason this year, I think Davis has another good year like last season. Even though last season it was a monster year for a guy filling in for McCaffrey with 60 catches and total 8 touchdowns. So right here, he's the number 1 dog over there in Atlanta. I know they signed Wayne Gallman, but Wayne Gallman's going to be the backup over there in Atlanta. And Davis, he should get 20, 25 touches a week here for this team. They got a good matchup week 1 versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who I don't think are all that great on the defensive end of things here. And Mike Davis, he's going to go out there, and I could see him catching 4 or 5 balls for 30, 40 yards. Also rushing for 60, 70 yards and finding the end zone. And that would be a huge day, especially for a guy who's your number 2 running back that got drafted or even a flex option in some of your fantasy leagues. So Mike Davis, I know some people are down on him. They think he was a fluke last year with the Panthers. But right now, even last season, Todd Gurley, we saw him have a decent year with this Falcon team. And right now, he's not even on a roster, and he's only 28 years old. So I think Mike Davis fits what this Atlanta team wants to do. And there'll be more targets out there as well with Julio Jones leaving in the offseason. And we know Mike Davis can make plays. So right here, I think it's a good matchup. And he's a guy definitely in PPR leagues. Will be a solid number 2 running back on your roster this week. And the 5th and final running back, I look to start this week's Leonard Fournette of the Tampa Bay Bucks. So Fournette here, he's got a great matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys, who in my opinion, they really have no one on defense except maybe Jalen Smith, Micah Parsons, and DeMarcus Lawrence, if he's even 100%. Besides that, this team, they don't have many guys. And once you get past those linebackers, it's free reign in that secondary, in my opinion. And Leonard Fournette, we know he's a dual threat out of the backfield. We know, though, he's also probably going to be splitting with Ronald Jones. But I think when it's all said and done, Bruce Arians is going to want Leonard Fournette as his number 1 running back on this roster here. And in this game versus Dallas, I could see this ball game getting out of hand early, especially with this Cowboy offense losing Zach Martin this week. He's on the COVID list. So right here, I could see a lot of runs to Fournette. I could see him catching 3 or 4 balls in this ball game. And he's definitely a guy I would start at my flex position or my number 2 running back. So that's a few running backs I would look to start here in week 1 of the fantasy football season.